If you got a job offer for Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, or another aerospace contractor in Palmdale, do not sign a lease. Do not put an offer on a house. And definitely do not pick a neighborhood just because it looks close on Google Maps until you watch this video. Because where you live in the Antelope Valley can change your commute, your monthly payment, your resale value, your school's option, and honestly, your day-to-day quality of just life. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly where aerospace engineers, technicians, program managers, defense contractors, veterans, and relocating families are buying near Plant 42, Skunk Works, Northrop, Boeing, and Edwards Air Force Base. I'll show you the 3 neighborhoods I would look at first, the 3 areas I would be extra careful with, and the financing programs that could help you buy with much more less down than most people probably think. So if you're relocating to Palmdale, Lancaster, Quartz Hill, or anywhere in the Antelope Valley for an aerospace job, this video is for you. Hi, I'm Jennifer Espinoza with Casa Espinoza Homes. I'm a bilingual Southern California realtor, and I help families buy and relocate across the Antelope Valley. I was born and raised in California, and I lived in Palmdale since I was 15 years old. So when I talk about Antelope Valley, I'm not just reading stats from a website. I know what it actually feels like to actually live here, drive these streets, compare the neighborhoods, and understand the difference between what looks good online and what makes sense in real life. I'm also a second-year JD student focused on real estate and property law. That doesn't mean this video is legal advice, and I always want you to consult the right professional for your situation. But it does mean that when I tell you to pay attention to contracts, inspection periods, loan terms, contingency dates, HOA rules, commute patterns, and resale risk, I'm looking at this from more than just one angle. So if you are relocating for an aerospace job, you probably don't have unlimited time. A lot of my clients are moving in 30, 45, or 60 dates. Maybe your start date is already set. Maybe your spouse is still in another city. Maybe you have kids and you're still trying to figure out schools. Maybe you're debating whether to rent first or buy right away. That's why this decision matters. You're not just buying a house. You're choosing a daily routine, a commute, a community, and a financial move that could affect you for years. And before we get into the neighborhoods, real quick, every single week, I have aerospace families and engineers just like you reaching out because they got a relocation offer, or they're transferring to Plant 42, or they're just tired of paying San Fernando Valley rent and finally ready to buy. Some are 30 days out, some are 6 months out, and a lot of them just want to ask questions about VA loans, the commute, or where to actually live without actually getting a sales pitch. If that's where you're at, my contact info is in the description below. Send me a text, an email, or just fill out a form on my website. I personally answer every single message in English or in Spanish. We could even hop on a free 15-minute call. There's gonna be zero pressure. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment, okay? But let's just dive in. Let's start with why the Antelope Valley is such a big deal for aerospace buyers. Palmdale is home to Plant 42, one of the most important aerospace and defense hubs in the country. You have Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, Boeing, and other contractors operating in and around this area. Then about 30 minutes northeast, you have Edwards Air Force Base, which is another major employer and a huge reason military families, veterans, engineers, contractors, and aviation professionals look at the AV. Your money still goes further here than in many other parts of Los Angeles County. But the real estate reason people are paying attention is simple. If you're coming from the San Fernando Valley, Santa Clarita, Pasadena, Burbank, Glendale, Long Beach, Orange County, or even parts of San Diego, the difference can be shocking. In many coastal or central Los Angeles markets, a buyer may be choosing between a small condo or an older townhome, or a house that needs a lot of work. But in the Antelope Valley, that same budget may get you a larger single-family home, more bedrooms, and a bigger lot, newer construction, a 3-car garage, or space for kids, pets, and extended family. That's one of the biggest reasons why aerospace buyers like the AV so much. You can be close to work, own more home, and still stay connected to Southern California. But here's the part people get wrong. Not every neighborhood in the Antelope Valley actually fits the same type of the buyer. A house can look affordable online and still be the wrong move, but if the commute is frustrating, if the resale pool is smaller, if the area doesn't match your lifestyle, or if you're stretching your budget for a home that doesn't support your long-term goals. That's why I want to break this down the way I would explain it to a client on a relocation call. Most aerospace buyers I work with fall into one of a few categories. The first category is an engineer or technical professional relocating for a role at Northrop, Lockheed, Boeing, or just another contractor. This buyer usually cares about the commute, the resale, the quiet neighborhoods, garage space, office space, and overall the stability. The second category is a military or veteran buyer, often connected to Edwards Air Force Base or defense contracting. This buyer may have access to a VA loan and may be trying to maximize benefits while keeping cash reserves for the move. And the third category is a family relocating from another part of California or another state. This buyer is usually comparing schools, safety, commute, house size, and whether the neighborhood feels somewhere they can settle for at least 3 to 7 years. The fourth category is a first-time buyer who got a strong aerospace job and is now wondering whether buying in Palmdale or Lancaster makes sense than renting. And if any of those sound like you, the three neighborhoods I will start with are West Palmdale, Quartz Hills, and West Lancaster. The first area I will look at is Palmdale, especially around 93551 zip code. For many aerospace buyers, West Palmdale is the easiest recommendation because it checks a lot of boxes at once. You're close to Plant 42, you have access to newer homes, you're near shopping and restaurants, and you still have that residential suburban feel in many of the areas here. For the commute, West Palmdale can be one of the strongest options if you're working near Plant 42, depending on the exact home and your exact work site. But many buyers like that they can keep the drive short and predictable. That matters more than people think. A 10-minute or a 15-minute commute doesn't just save time, it protects your energy. So if you are working long aerospace hours, you have program deadlines, classified schedules, or early mornings, a shorter commute can make such a big difference. West Palmdale also tends to attract buyers who want a more established professional environment. You'll often see buyers in aerospace, healthcare, education, public safety, and other stable industries looking in this area. This can also help with resale because when it's time to sell, you're not depending on only one type of buyer. The homes in West Palmdale can vary a lot. You can find larger 2-story homes, single-story homes, newer communities, older established tracts, homes with pools, homes with RV access, and properties with larger lots depending on the area. Because of that variety, it's important not to judge West Palmdale as one giant neighborhood. One street may feel very different for another. If you're a senior engineer, manager, contractor, or family that wants convenience and a shorter commute, West Palmdale should be the near top of your list. But here's a caution. Because West Palmdale is popular, you need to be smart about value. Don't overpay just because a home looks pretty online. Look at the age of the roofs, HVAC, windows, flooring, plumbing, solar tubes, mellow roofs if applicable, HOA roofs if there is any HOA, and whether the upgrades are cosmetic or actually meaningful. I always tell my buyers this. A beautifully staged home can still have expensive issues. A home when you paint and nice counters is not automatically a better investment than a home with good systems, a strong layout, and a fair price. For West Palmdale, I will ask 3 questions before I even write an offer. And these are my questions. How long is my realistic commute to work? How does this home compare to recent sales in the same area? And if I had to sell in 3 to 5 years, would another aerospace buyer want this location? The second area I will look at is Quartz Hills. Quartz Hills is a favorite for buyers who want a quieter, more suburban, slightly more spacious feel. It is especially popular with families who care about schools, lot size, and a slower pace compared with more commercial parts of Palmdale and Lancaster. If West Palmdale is convenient, practical choice of many Plant 42 buyers, Quartz Hills is an area that often feels more residential and settled. You'll see homes with bigger lots, mature neighborhoods, and a little more breathing room. For buyers coming from crowded Los Angeles neighborhoods, that extra space can feel like a major lifestyle upgrade. But commute-wise, Quartz Hills can still work very well for someone going to Plant 42. And it can also be reasonable for someone who needs access to Lancaster or Edwards, depending on the exact route. But again, you have to map the commute from the actual house, not just a neighborhood name. In the AV, a few miles can change your drive more than people expect. Quartz Hills also has a reputation for a strong school interest compared with many other areas of the Antelope Valley, which is why families ask about it so often. If schools are important, you should always verify boundaries directly because school assignments can change and one street can feed differently than another. But as a general buyer profile, Quartz Hills is often on the list for families who are thinking long term. The homes here can be very attractive to Aerospace buyers because they may offer more space for money compared with some other Southern California markets. You may be able to find a home with extra bedrooms, a dedicated office, a larger yard, or space for multi-generational living. The caution with Quartz Hills is inventory and pricing. Because many buyers want the same things here, good homes can be very competitive here. You also want to be careful not to assume that every home in Quartz Hills is automatically a good deal. Look closely at the condition, age, layout, and whether the home fits your actual lifestyle. For example, if you had to work long hours and don't want to maintain a large yard, a huge lot may sound great but become a burden. If you have kids, pets, hobbies, or you want RV parking, then that same larger lot could be perfect for you. The best neighborhood isn't just the most popular one, it's the one that matches your real daily life. Quartz Hills is a strong fit if you want a quieter feel, larger lots, family-friendly neighborhoods, and a commute that still keeps you connected to Aerospace employment centers. The third area I would seriously consider is West Lancaster, especially around 93536 zip code. West Lancaster is one of the most interesting areas for Aerospace buyers because it can offer a lot of house for the money while still keeping you connected to both Plant 42 and Edwards Air Force Base. If you're working at Plant 42, the commute can be manageable depending on where you buy. If you're connected to Edwards, West Lancaster can be even more practical than some Palmdale options. This is why I call West Lancaster one of the AV's best kept secrets for certain buyers. It's not the right fit for everyone, but for the right buyer, it can make a lot of sense to them. You'll often find newer builds, larger homes, wider streets, bigger lots, and family-oriented communities. Buyers who feel priced out of West Palmdale or even Quartz Hills sometimes find that West Lancaster gives them more options without completely sacrificing commute or even their own lifestyle. Another reason Aerospace buyers look at West Lancaster is flexibility. If your job is tied to Plant 42 now, but there's a chance you could later be working closer to Edwards, then West Lancaster may keep both options more realistic. And that actually matters in Aerospace because contracts, programs, assignments, and work locations can shift over time. For buyers with VA financing, FHA financing, or a lower down payment strategy, West Lancaster can also be worth exploring because the price points may leave more room in the budget. Sometimes the smartest move isn't buying the maximum home you qualify for. Sometimes the smartest move is buying a home that lets you breathe financially while still giving you the space and location you actually need. The caution with West Lancaster is that you need to compare areas carefully. Some areas feel newer and more residential, while other areas may not fit what an Aerospace family is looking for. You also need to think about where to shop, where your kids may go to school, where your spouse may work, and where your weekend routine would actually look like. Aerospace buyers are often very analytical, and I love that because the right way to elevate the West Lancaster is by comparing actual numbers and actual lifestyle factors. What is the commute? What are the recent comps? What is the age of the home? What repairs may be coming for me? What is the payment after taxes, insurance, HOA, and possible solar? What does resale look like if you move in 5 years? If you want more home for your money, you want access to both Plant 42 and Edwards, and you're open to Lancaster instead of only Palmdale, West Lancaster deserves a serious look. Here's a simple way I would compare these 3 areas. West Palmdale is best fit for Plant 42 employees, senior engineers, and families wanting convenience. The main advantage they have is shorter commute, stronger buyer demand, established appeal, and the main caution is pricing can be higher, so value matters. And in Quartz Hill, the best fit for families is wanting quieter neighborhoods and more space. Main advantage there is larger lots, suburban feel, stronger family appeal, and the main caution we have is the inventory can be limited and competitive. But in West Lancaster, it is best fit for buyers wanting more home for money and access to Plant 42 or Edwards. And the main advantage they have is there's more space, newer options, flexible commute positioning, and the main caution we should have is you must compare the areas carefully. If you're asking me where I would start, I wouldn't give one answer to every buyer. I would ask, where do you work? What your budget is? Whether you have kids? How long you plan to stay? Whether you're using VA or FHA? And how much commute you can realistically tolerate? That's why I offer personalized neighborhood maps, because a general YouTube video can point you in the right direction, but your best answer depends on your exact situation. Now let's go ahead and talk about the areas I would be careful with. And I want to be very clear. I'm not saying these are bad places. Every area has buyers who love it, and every buyer has different priorities. What I'm saying is that if you're an aerospace buyer relocating for Plant 42, Skunk Works, Northrop, Lockheed, Boeing, or Edwards, these areas may not be the best fit depending on your goals. The first area I would be careful with is Far East Palmdale. Far East Palmdale can look attractive online because prices may be lower compared with West Palmdale or even Quartz Hill. But for an aerospace buyer, you have to look beyond the list price. If your commute gets longer, if your resale demand is weaker, or if the home is farther from the lifestyle you actually want, the lower price may not be the one it appears to be. This is where people make mistakes. They compare square footage and price, but they don't compare commute fatigue, resale pool, school boundaries, insurance, maintenance, or how often they will be driving across town. The second area I would be careful with is Rosemont. Rosemont can make sense for some Edward Air Force Base buyers, and they are people who actually like it because it can feel quieter and more remote. But if you're working at Plant 42 or you want easier access to Palmdale and Lancaster amenities, Rosemont can feel disconnected. You have to be honest with yourself about how often you want to drive for shopping. But if you're a family relocating to the AV and you want convenience, you want to compare it carefully before actually committing. The third area I will be careful with is Acton. Acton is so beautiful. There are larger lots, rural views, and a very different lifestyle from the rest of the AV. But for many aerospace buyers, the commute and road patterns can become a big issue for them. If you're hybrid, you may think the drive is not a big deal. But when you have early meetings, late nights, weather, accidents, or a schedule change, that commute can actually feel very different for you. But Acton may be right for someone who wants land, privacy, horses, or a rural lifestyle. But if your top priorities are commute efficiency, resell to other aerospace buyers, and convenience, I would be cautious of Acton. The point isn't that these areas are wrong for you. The point is that cheap, pretty, or close on a map doesn't always mean practical. Now let's talk about financing, because this is where a lot of buyers are leaving money on the table. First, if you are a veteran, active duty military, eligible reservist, or a surviving spouse, you may qualify for a VA loan. A VA loan can allow eligible buyers to purchase with zero down payment, which is huge. Let's say you're looking at a home around $545,000. A traditional 20% down payment would be about $109,000. That's a lot of cash. With a VA loan, if you're eligible and the property qualifies, you may be able to buy with zero down, instead of tying up that money in a down payment. That doesn't mean the home is free, and it doesn't mean every VA buyer should spend the maximum amount they actually qualify for. You still need to look at payment, taxes, insurance, closing costs, debt to income ratio, and long-term affordability. But VA financing can be one of the most powerful tools for aerospace and military connected buyers in the Antelope Valley. Second, if you're not VA eligible, do not assume you need 20% down. Many buyers may qualify for FHA financing, which can allow a down payment as low as 3.5% for eligible buyers on a $545,000 home. That is roughly $19,000 down before considering closing costs and other expenses. Third, they may be down payment assistance options, including programs like CalHAFA, depending on your income, credit, property, and current programs availability. These programs change and not everyone qualifies, so you need a lender who understands them and explain the real numbers. Here's what I want you to remember. Your loan strategy should match your life strategy. If you're relocating, you may need cash for moving expenses, temporary housing, furniture repairs, childcare, travel, or just having safety cushion. Sometimes putting every dollar into down payment isn't the smartest move for you. Sometimes preserving cash reserve matters more. And this is why I recommend getting a pre-approved early with the lender who understands VA, FHA, conventional, and all the California Assistance Program. A basic online calculator is not enough. You need someone to walk you through payment, cash to close, interest rate options, seller credits, inspection costs, appraisal requirements, and whether a specific property will work with your loan. A big question I get from relocating aerospace buyer is this one: should I rent first or buy right away? The honest answer is it depends. Renting first can make sense if you have never lived in the Antelope Valley, if your job assignment is uncertain, if your family is still deciding whether they want to settle, or if you need time to learn the neighborhoods in person. Buying right away can make sense if your job is stable, your budget is clear. You know you will be here for several years, and you have guidance from someone local who can help you avoid the wrong areas. The mistake is rushing either decision without a plan. Some buyers rent for a year and then realize prices moved, inventory tightened, or they spend a lot of money on rent that could have gone toward ownership. Other buyers purchase too fast and then realize the neighborhood, commute, or home condition wasn't the right fit for them. But my advice, create a relocation plan before you move. Know your budget. Know your commute tolerance. Know your must-have. Know your school needs if applicable. Know whether you are trying to buy immediately or use the first few months to learn the area. Because I'm also studying real estate and property law, I want to add something that doesn't get talked about enough in relocation videos. The contract matters. When you're buying from out of area, you need to be extra careful with timelines, contingencies, inspections, appraisal terms, loan deadlines, seller credits, solar agreements, HOA documents, and repair negotiations. Aerospace buyers are often busy. You may be working long hours, onboarding into a new job, handling security clearance paperwork, moving your family, or coordinating from another state. That means you need a process that is organized. Don't weigh protections just because the market feels competitive. Don't ignore inspection findings because you're tired. Don't assume solar panels are actually automatically a benefit. Don't assume every HOA is the same. Don't assume the seller's upgrades were permitted, and don't let anyone pressure you into the decision you don't understand. A good home purchase should feel clear, not chaotic. You should know what you're signing, what your deadlines are, and what risk you are accepting. If you came to me and said this: Jennifer, I just got hired at Northrop, Lockheed, Boeing, or I'm moving for Edwards, where should I live? This is how I would help you. First, I'm going to ask you where you physically report to work, because that changes everything. Second, I will ask you your budget and whether you're using VA, FHA, conventional, or down payment assistance. Third, I will ask whether the school matters, whether you need a single-story home, whether you need a home office, whether you want a larger lot, or whether you have pets, whether you need RV access, and whether you're planning to stay for 3, 5 years, or even longer. Then I would build a neighborhood strategy around you, not around what's trending, not around what another buyer did, around your commute, your payment, your family, and your resale goals. For some buyers, that answer would be West Palmdale. For others, it would be Quartz Hills. And for others as well, it would be West Lancaster, which would make more sense for them. And for a few buyers, renting first may actually be the smartest move. Let's go ahead and do a recap. If you're relocating for an aerospace job in the Antelope Valley, start with West Palmdale, Quartz Hills, and West Lancaster. West Palmdale is great for convenience, commute, and strong buyer demand. Quartz Hills is great for families who want a quieter feel and more space. West Lancaster is great for buyers who want more home for that money and access to both Plant 42 and Edwards. But be very careful with Far East Palmdale, Rosemont, and Acton if commute efficiency, resale, and convenience are your top priorities. And do not assume you need 20% down. VA, FHA, and down payment assistance programs may give you options, especially if you're military connected, a veteran, or a first-time buyer. So if you're relocating for an aerospace job and you want a real plan, not just random Zillow links, my info is in my description below. Send me a text, an email, fill out the form on my website, or just hop on a free 15 to 30 minute call, whatever is easier for you. I personally answer every single message in English or Spanish. There's zero pressure. You can literally just ask me anything. VA loan questions, commute breakdowns, which neighborhood fits your situation, all of it. That's what I'm here for. And if you know an aerospace family who's about to relocate, send them this video. It might save them from buying in the wrong neighborhood. If you want my Plan 42 commute map, neighborhood breakdown, and active listings in areas that actually fit your situation, just DM me the word Aerospace on my Instagram, Casa Espinosa Homes. If you're a Spanish-speaking aerospace family, yes, we can have this entire conversation Spanish. DM me la palabra casa, and I'll help you step by step. Subscribe for more honest, no pressure real estate videos every Wednesday and Saturdays at 10 a.m. Pacific time. Tu casa propia es posible. Whether you're an engineer, a veteran, or anyone in between, let's get your dream home.